Many years ago, while my husband and I were on vacation, he was channel surfing and something sparked my attention. He paused on a show about a girl with an eating disorder. Hi, Darlene Dawn here with another snippet for Living Your Best Life. And today's little topic is going to be dying to be thin. As I tried to block out the show, I became somewhat numb as part of me did not wish to see this show, and the other part of me was mesmerized and curious. I felt as though I'd left my body and I was watching a show that in some ways I could identify with, and this scared the hell out of me. I could not fully see that what she was doing was wrong. Although the behavior was being projected as not normal, I really had trouble seeing what was wrong with it. I identified strongly with this girl. It was like watching a train wreck. I wanted to turn my head, but I couldn't look away. I was listening, but somewhat in a trance, as tears began to flow down my eyes. Upon seeing my reaction, my husband said he was going to switch the channel, not wanting to see me upset. Therein lies the problem. I should have said stop, and he should have left it on. Society likes to pretend that things are all right, and family like to pretend that things are all right when really they are not. They think they're doing so out of love, but sometimes families like to look the other way and not admit that there is a problem in their own nuclear structure. This show alone had banished their own anorexic daughter to the basement so they did not have to see her throwing up and wasting away. Now, this seemed very harsh and more like a punishment. It's like they were punishing her for not eating. And anyone who has had anorexia or knows of anorexia or any eating disorder knows that that is only going to make things worse. You can't force somebody to eat. You can't punish them. That is the worst way to deal with something like this because it is a control issue. It is a mental illness. Basically, they were taking the out of sight, out of mind approach. Although my husband totally agreed the behavior was wrong, he basically had done the same to me, but he did so out of love because he didn't want to see me crying. He didn't want to deal with the issue of both of us knew had been a struggle for me almost my entire life, on and off. When the girl in the show became so ill that she had to go to the hospital, it was not about her, but the family and how the family dinner that night was ruined and disrupted. I'm going to give the girl a name. I'm going to call her Jane, just for lack of a better name. And it was like Jane had ruined our Christmas dinner, just like she ruined Thanksgiving dinner. Jane ruins everything. Now, how do you think Jane feels if Jane is responsible for everything and being made the bad guy? What part of their behavior towards their sister or daughter did they not comprehend? Why were they not able to see this as an uncontrollable illness? It wasn't a teenage rebellion. It's an illness, just like alcoholism or any other mind or body debilitating disease. Family members are afraid to acknowledge the disease at all, or any part they may have in contributing to the illness of a family member. Instead of reaching out and loving and hugging them, they do the opposite. They pull away from the person who is literally crying out for love in the worst way. This is a form of mental illness that often families do not want to acknowledge exists in their family in any form. It must remain a secret. Because back then, and this was years ago, it really had a strong stigma. Any mental illness was stigmatized. Now, it's getting a little better now, but back then, families did not want anyone to know, and they didn't really want to accept it because if they accepted that it was a problem, they would have to deal with it. And by not acknowledging it, they didn't have to deal with it. The individual with the disorder is struggling because they don't realize themselves that they really have this disorder because they really have a body image problem, dysmorphia, where they don't see themselves as 80 pounds. They actually do see themselves as fat. They perceive themselves the way they've heard someone else comment on them and internalize irrationally due to their lack of self-esteem. In most cases, one or several events in their lives have contributed to making them feel belittled and worthless. They feel like this is the only control they have in their lives is to not eat. All this other control has been taken away from them. They feel like this is a world they do not really fit in and do not know how to go about life normally. Everything is a struggle for them. Normal day-to-day things that are a routine for most everybody else are a daily struggle and constant challenge for people with this disorder. They feel alone and isolated, ostracized, different. I bet you're wondering why I even mention this disease, but it's a disease that still does exist. And this eating disorder has many faces and correlates directly to other diseases, to bone loss, to autoimmune diseases, osteoporosis, arthritis, just to name a few. You may not see the effects of this till years later. So if you're a teenager and you think it's okay to skip all those meals because you'll get back on track later on, it won't matter. Well, guess what? It does matter because you do damage that can't totally be fixed. You may appear to have it all under control and think you're fine for many years. You may skip the odd meal and justify it to yourself with being too busy. But all this abuse has done irreparable damage to your body. For example, if you do not maintain your car or give it proper fuel and oil, it's going to become sluggish, rust out, and cease to function normally, and probably not run at all. Our bodies are much like cars. They need to be fed and maintained and looked after in order to function properly. There have been many deaths due to eating disorders. By depriving yourself of food and nutrients, you are indirectly starving yourself, and your body will only take what it can get from your bones and your muscles, trying so desperately to stay alive. And after it's taking all that, it's going to start taking from your heart, and your heart's going to lose function. And we hear about it again and again, like many of the other mental illnesses. We don't want to believe that people actually die, and they die from trying to be thin. I know this as I suffered from this for years, and although I feel like I am cured, eating disorders will always be something I need to be aware of, as anorexia, binge eating, body image, these are all disorders that can creep back up on you at any time. My main reason for doing this podcast is to bring awareness in how you might treat a daughter or a sister or a cousin or a friend. Like any mental illness, keep the talk going. Please do not look away and pretend that it does not exist. Don't force feed or demand they eat, as this is a control issue already, and it'll only make the eating disorder worse. Be a friend. Don't look the other way. Listen, be there for them, as this disorder stems from something far deeper than food. With that being said, until next time, bye for now.